In the world of AI, the way we measure success is, well, it's about to get a massive overhaul. If you're building with AI agents, that old report card we used to use is failing big time. A new blueprint is emerging, so let's break down what that future's going to look like. And this quote, man, it just nails it. It gets right to the heart of the problem. For years, we've just graded an AI on its final answer. Was it right? Was it wrong? Simple. But now, as agents get way more complex, they're using tools, they're retrieving data, they're making whole chains of decisions, that simple grade isn't just wrong, it's become dangerously misleading. So, this all requires a completely new mindset. We have to stop thinking like we're grading a math test and start thinking like we're modeling risk. It's a huge shift. And here's the core idea for 2026, right here. Evaluation is a risk model. It's not about a single score anymore. We're talking about a continuous process. It's about collecting evidence from every single step an agent takes, pulling that evidence together into clear signals of trust, and then, and this is the key, using those signals to actually gate deployment. The question becomes, is this thing safe to ship? Not just, did it get the right answer? Now, to do this, you have to look at what's called the agent trajectory. And listen, this isn't just the final output. This is the entire causal chain. We're talking every tool it called, every piece of data it looked up, every little internal choice it made along the way to get to that final answer. If you ignore this trajectory, that's where the real danger is hiding. And when you ignore that trajectory, that's what leads to the most critical issue we're facing, what this new model is designed to solve. We're talking about a silent failure. This is probably the most common and honestly the most dangerous blind spot in modern AI today. We call this failure mode silent correctness. And think about how scary this is for a second. It's a scenario where the agent gives you the right answer, the perfect summary, the correct number, everything looks great. But to get there, it made up a source, it used a tool completely the wrong way, or it took some other unsafe step. So on the surface, everything is fine, but underneath, the whole process was fundamentally broken. This slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you got the big green check mark, correct output, mission accomplished, right? Wrong. Because on the right, hidden from view, you've got this broken process that got you there. This is the exact disconnect that we have to fix. So the whole point is this. We have to fundamentally change the question we're asking. We need to move from, did it say the right thing, to, did it get to that conclusion through a path that we can actually trust, a path that's valid and safe. The process, the journey, is now just as important as the destination, maybe even more so. Okay, so we've hammered on the problem. It's a big one. So what's the solution? Let's introduce the engine that's going to power this new evaluation model. We'll call it the Scorer, and you can think of this as the big upgrade that's replacing old clunky tools like LLM as a judge. So the Scorer has three core parts. The easiest way to think about it is like a panel of expert judges. First up, you've got the sensors, which are called metric heads. These are a bunch of small, super fast models that each measure just one specific thing. Second, you have the blueprint. This is a dynamic tree that figures out which of those sensors are actually important for the specific task at hand. And finally, you have the judge, an aggregator that takes all that evidence and makes one smart final call. So what are these little metric heads actually measuring? Well, pretty much everything you'd care about. They're checking for things like clarity and coherence. They're checking for truthfulness. Is it factual? Is it grounded in the source material? They're validating the trajectory, making sure tool calls were correct. And critically, they are constantly probing for safety and security risks, like whether it's vulnerable to prompt injection or if it's leaking sensitive data. Each one is a tiny specialist. Now, that final judge, the aggregator, it's not just doing simple math, like taking an average. No way. It's smart, it's nonlinear, just like our own judgment. I mean, think about it. If an agent writes this beautiful, perfect answer, but it hallucinates one critical fact or breaks a safety rule, a person wouldn't say, oh, well, it's 90% good. No, you'd throw the whole thing out. The aggregator does the same thing. One critical failure can and absolutely should override everything else. Okay, so we've got the theory down, but what does this actually look like in a real engineering workflow? Let's take a look at this whole evaluation system in action, from the second a developer writes a line of code to long after it's been shipped to users. And this right here is a huge shift in thinking. Evaluation is no longer some PDF report that somebody reads a week after something has already broken. With a Scorter, it becomes an automated, active quality gate that's built right into your development pipeline. Its entire job is to stop bad code from ever even reaching production. So here's how that CI/CD gate works. It's actually super straightforward. A developer pushes a change. An automated suite of tests immediately runs against it. The Scorer analyzes all the results and checks if this new code has caused any drop in quality, safety, or performance. If the scores dip below your threshold, the change is automatically blocked. Simple, powerful, and it saves you from so many headaches. And the Scorer's job isn't done when you deploy. Not at all. In production, it's constantly monitoring your agent's performance, watching for something called drift, those subtle little changes in quality or safety that can creep in over time. This lets your team catch problems long before your users start flooding support tickets. Okay, we have covered the why, the what, and the how. Now for the most important part, your actionable blueprint. This is the checklist you can literally use to start building a trustworthy 2026-ready evaluation system today. Now listen, the order you do this in is absolutely crucial. You have to start with the foundation, a schema for tracing those trajectories, because you can't evaluate what you can't see. Then you build out your library of those specialized metric heads. Once you have those sensors, you need a compiler to organize them for each task, and then you build a simple gated aggregator. Only then, once that whole system is in place, do you start collecting human preference data to train that aggregator to think like your experts. And then finally, you wire the whole thing into your development and production loops. And this brings us to a massive warning, a really big one. You must build your measurement system before you try to optimize your agent's performance. If you do it the other way around, I guarantee you will ship what are called reward hacks. These are agents that get really good at tricking your simple metrics, but they completely fall apart in complex, real-world situations. So measure first, then optimize. If there's only one thing you remember from all of this, let it be this right here. This is the entire philosophy in a single sentence. Your tools, your tests, all they do is generate evidence. The Scorer is the engine that takes all that evidence and turns it into a signal of trust. And it is that trust, and only that trust, that should decide whether you deploy. So, we'll just leave you with this final thought. As these AI systems get exponentially more powerful and more autonomous, the frameworks we build to measure them, to verify them, and ultimately to trust them, that might just be the most important piece of technology we create. The quality of our future with AI really does depend on it.